More and more belligerent statements are heard from high Western platforms. Now they even say that they need to allow Kyiv to strike deep into Russian territory with Western weapons. Just today, the Minister of Defense of the European Union discussed this topic, and the NATO Secretary General even said that they are giving weapons to Kyiv. And since then they have believed that they are Ukrainian, and Ukraine can do whatever it wants, strike at Russian territory wherever it sees fit. Thanks a lot. Now about the strikes. To be honest, I don't know what the NATO Secretary General is saying. When he was Prime Minister of Norway, we communicated with him and resolved difficult issues regarding the Barents Sea and other issues. And, in general, we could agree. At that time, I am sure of this, he did not suffer from any dementia. He talks about the possibility of striking Russian territory with long-range precision weapons. He is the person who heads the military political organization. Although he is a civilian, like me, he still must know that long-range precision weapons cannot be used without space reconnaissance assets. First. Second, the final choice of target and the so-called flight mission can only be made by highly qualified specialists based on this intelligence data. Technical intelligence data. For some strike systems, such as Storm Shadow, these flight missions can be entered automatically, without any presence of Ukrainian military personnel. Who does this? This is done by those who produce these missiles and by those who allegedly supply these strike systems to Ukraine. In general, this can happen, and this happens without the participation of Ukrainian military personnel and other systems, for example, such as ATACMS. They are also prepared on the basis of space reconnaissance. Their targets are formulated, which are automatically communicated to the relevant units. They may not even understand what they are entering. And then this unit, perhaps the Ukrainian unit, introduces the corresponding flight mission. But this flight mission is not prepared by Ukrainian military personnel, but by representatives of NATO countries. So, these representatives of NATO countries, especially in Europe, especially in small countries, they must be aware of what they are playing with. They must remember that, as a rule, these are states with a small territory and a very dense population. And this is a factor that they must keep in mind before talking about striking deep into Russian territory. This is serious stuff.
We've got some breaking news just in, folks. The US President Joe Biden has secretly given Ukraine permission to strike inside Russia with American weapons. Mark Stone, following the story from Washington now.
It is the American president accepting that the situation on the ground has changed and accepting too that there is little question that Russia has the upper hand in this long war that he would like to have been over with a Ukrainian victory some time ago. The reporting at the moment is thin, and it is US officials talking to our colleagues at NBC News here in Washington, saying that President Biden has secretly given Ukraine permission to strike inside Russia, solely near the area of Kharkiv, that's Ukraine's second city in the far east of the country, right up near the front line with the Russian advance. That is the only detail we've got at the moment, but it comes after an interesting statement that Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, made just yesterday when he was in Moldova talking about Ukraine, and he said that one of the hallmarks of our support for Ukraine for more than 2 years now has been to adapt. He said, as the conditions have changed, the battlefield has changed, as what Russia has done has changed, we have adapted, adjusted, and I'm confident we will continue to do that.
So essentially, the Ukrainians has already been using a lot of these weapons, which they have been getting over the past, I would say, 5-6 months. They've already been fired into parts of Russia. They've been fired at the Crimean Bridge, but this is not, in any type way a political or favorable commentary on what's going on. We know what is happening should happen, and this is what is supposed to happen at this time. But the words of the U.S. President and those of NATO, OTAN, is already just really saying in the open, which has already been happening. And in a sense, the trap has been laid by the Russians, and they have bitten it off. And so from here, we're going to see an escalation and another jump into what the next phase of this is going to be, which is going to be something that is going to be beyond anyone's thoughts or imagination. So stay tuned and tune in here for the next update. See you on the next one, family.